Watch and burn.
Hey everybody, so tonight I want to, hopefully quickly enough, discuss the only record from Neil Young that I have ever loved. And that is, I think it's 2003's Greendale. This, of course, tells the story of the fictitious town of the same name. And, I mean, the level of storytelling. Okay, Neil Young, he is an incredibly talented songwriter. This is old news at this point, okay? If you don't know who Neil Young is, you got to try getting out of your cave, climbing out from under your rock. You know, and I'm not saying that to be rude. It's just in 2023, if you're not sure who Neil Young is, I don't know why you're watching this. You know, what do you give a fuck about Greendale? But yeah, Neil Young, he has been long since been established as one of the greatest songwriters ever. And even though I've never really been into Young stuff, or through Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young stuff, I haven't really been into their stuff either. This record's like perfect. I know a lot of people take issue with Young's voice. You either love it or hate it. Doesn't bother me at all. And it's just, it's like, I mean, this is so reminiscent of like Thornton Wilder's Our Town. I remember my first high school, did a presentation of Our Town back in grade 10. And it wasn't bad. They did a pretty good job all in all. Because I grew up loving Our Town. It's like one of the most perfect ideas of sort of somewhere to live. You know, things happen, and of course the play goes on, and you know there are hardships experienced. But I've always sort of had like a low-key obsession with the idea of Our Town, sort of like the same. I'm thinking in the same vein of like a Little House on the Prairie here, and that's what Greendale reminds me of. It's this quaint little town where nothing ever happens until something does, and I think if memory serves, Jed kills Carmichael. Carmichael's a cop. He pulls Jeb over, and he's got a bunch of drugs and shit in the car. And then Carmichael's, if memory serves, the lyrics, if Carmichael's flashlight finds the gun. And that's when Carmichael is killed. And that sort of puts this tiny little fictitious, non-existent town on the map. Like every reporter in the country swoops in like the vultures that they are. And they start interviewing everybody even remotely connected to the idea of this killing of this police officer. And it's just like the song Carmichael, where it's his wife, like talking about how she's thinking about like the time that Carmichael made a fool out of himself when he met Wayne Newton. And now she's talking to a wall because Carmichael's gone because he was killed, and how none of his fellow officers parked in his spot for over a year. And it's so honest, and it's so real, and it's so pure. You can't help but being taken in by the characters here. Like Grandpa's interview. He ends up pulling a shotgun because the reporters, they're vultures again. They are vultures. And they're just all over his property. And he ends up suffering a heart attack as a result of the stress caused by his son killing the cop. And this causes his granddaughter, Sun Green, which is also my favorite song on this record, to start misbehaving. And she becomes more of an environmentalist. And the song, you know, Sun Green started making waves around the time that Grandpa died. So all of this is tied into the fact that Carmichael was killed. And that just completely tears the town apart. And it's the attention to detail. And considering the fact that the average song length on here is like 7 or 8 minutes. And Young and company pull it off flawlessly each time. My favorite songs on here are Double E, Carmichael, Granddad's Interview, and Sun Green. You know, I mean, this is covering this runs the gamut. There's so many topics covered here. I mean, they're covering corruption, they're covering the environment through Sun Green, and overall, I think my favorite thing about this record is it's a really good look at the passage of time and growing older and how things will change. It's like my favorite thing about The Irishman was I loved The Irishman because it was a really good look at aging and how you have to be careful in what you do in life because one day you're going to be old and you're not going to have a second chance. And I get the same vibe from this. And this record's awesome. The artwork's amazing, the songwriting is killer, the production is so solid, and I think my absolute favorite thing is that it sounds effortless. It sounds like Young and Company didn't even try. And he created this perfect sounding record. And on that note, I'm going to stop talking about this perfect sounding record. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over 5 minutes while I discussed Neil Young's 2003 album Greendale. Like always, if you like this review, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. But most importantly, please don't forget that the world is actually a better place because you are in it. I'm going to go. Have a good night.